Hey guys, press one here. So in this video, I'm walking through how to create component systems in Figma. I'm trying to keep this really short. I've done this before, but I think I've decided to make it a shorter video, right? Because I previously did this December of last year, 2024, and it was a live session, and I ended up spending a lot more time than I planned to. So I'm going to walk you through the necessities and everything you need to know to create component systems, right? So I am going to set a timer now for myself, so I am in check, right? And yeah, all right. So this is 25 minutes, so let's just get started, right? So guys, component systems are quite useful in Figma for those who have used them before, and if you're a beginner, I would suggest you learn how to create components and how to work with them, or even both, because you want to you want to know how to reference them in your projects every single time, and when to use them and when not to use them, when to detach instances and when to work with them really. So I'll explain the important things, and together we're going to create an input system, right? Real quick here in Figma, right? And yeah, so let's just jump right into it. So this is when you see this symbol, it means it's a component, and a component is pretty much usable design elements made in Figma to help us design faster and keep things organized in our file, right? And so most times they're denoted by the purple color, right? Variants, on the other hand, are individual elements housed inside of a component set. They can have multiple properties assigned to them. We'll talk about this later. Instances, on the other hand, are variants that are used in a design, right? A component system is made up of variants. These variants can be inserted into your design work as instances, and they are used in your design. Changes made to instances do not affect the parent components, which is the variants that are inside a component set, and changes made to parent components, instances, right? They usually affect uh, the the instances, like the ones that have been extracted from this system and are currently using your design work, right? So parent components are the master. Are called master, or they're called parent, and any major change that is done on them is pretty much going to be affected by you know uh, it's going to affect the instances using in a design work, right? So yeah, I'm going to just walk you through a couple of things from scratch, and so hopefully you get the hang of it. And as always, you can always rewind this video, if you feel lost or something isn't quite clear, but I'll try to be as clear as possible within 25 minutes, right? So this is the list we're going to use to design our input, right? And this is a sample of what we're going to do, but we're going to make it in a lot more complex, in the sense that we have different states and different sizes, right? And and I'll show you how to create all of these from scratch and how to import them. And as always, basic auto layout knowledge is required here, because we'll be using things like feed container, hot content, and the likes. And these are like the icons we are going to use in our design, right? Real quick, so it's easy for you to understand. And on the other hand, here, these are like components I've already created that I'm going to reference later to show you examples, right? So now let's just get right into it, right? So let's start from here. Let's try to replicate this, right? So first things first, move up your type tool, your text tool rather, so T on your keyboard, right? And just come in here and just type title goes here, right? And since I have created color styles here on this file, so it's a lot easier for me to switch, right? So just select this guy and just duplicate this one like so, and I'll just come and say shift A auto layout. So I create an auto layout on this text. Then the vertical and horizontal padding, I'll make it 12 pixels each. Then I can give it a few color of white, then add a stroke, right? And I'll use my 500 here and give a corner radius of, let's say, 8 pixels or so, right? This is for stroke width. Sorry, I'm used to using the other UI. That's the newer UI. But I use the older one now to create components, because I learned like with this particular UI. So yeah. About 20 minutes in, you guys. So first things first, you add your text, right? Your icons. So we could just come here, just copy one of this icon and just say alt and drag, or yeah, or yeah, alt or option and drag inside here, and I'll just control V this guy and just move it to the left, right? So before I end up doing this, I want to do something first. So let me walk you through like components and instances, right? So these are icons I want to reference in this component, right? So what I will do is I will come here and I'll select all of these guys, right? Then I will right click and I'll click on create component. But I don't want to create a component, because if I do this, I'm going to, all of these are going to be, like, individual groups, right? But I don't want that. So what I'll do, I will undo, Command Z or Control Z. Then I'll just select all of them again, and I'll come here and I'll say create multiple components. That's because I want each of these guys to be individual component. As you can, if you look at our menu here on the left hand side, you see that these guys, they take this icon, right, that I showed you here. So these are individual components, right? So since I've already pre-named them, I'm not going to change the names of them, right? So I'll now select these three. So I want these guys to be inside one component set. So I'll just come here and I'll just come here and I'll say create component set, right? And I pretty much get that. So yeah, so as you can see, there's an error message here. Figma tells me that there's some conflicting variants, and mind you, if you remember correctly, each of these elements here are variants, right? So I'll come here and I want to rename them, right? Because you see, if I just collapse this guy, you can see they're all like, they have like the same name. So I want to rename them, so I could just come here and I don't think I need to have more than one property, so I'll just delete all of these guys, right? So I'll just come here and we'll talk about properties later, don't worry. So I'll just come in and I'll say this is the stroke version of this icon, and this is the two-tone, or they just call it dual tone, right? And this is going to be the field icon, alright? Okay, so this is all we need for now, and let's just call this icon, let's call it delete set. Alright, so I'll just call it trash set, since that's a trash can. Alright, and so Control R to rename, by the way, in case you're wondering. So I've created individual components for these guys, right? And I've created a set where I kept these particular three icons because I want to reference them in my design in a particular way. So I'll explain all these things later. So now I'll just come here, I'll just bring this icon here. So what I can do is I can just alt and drag, right? And you see that I have an instance. If you look at my side menu, this is the icon we now get to see, right? Because that is now an instance. So if you feel like that might be weird for you, the better way to do this is actually to keep these guys are not the parent components. You can see here, right? They have this icon style. I'll just go to assets and I'll just create in this file. Come here and I'll search for let's just say add, right? Call it add. So I just drag this add component here into my input, and I'll just delete these other ones, right? Since I don't need them for now. Okay, so this is a normal input, and this is like an input field that we haven't created any component yet. So let's just first of all rename this, right? So let's call it placeholder, right? And we want to duplicate this button, this icon, right? So let's Control V and bring it to the left side, and we have that, right? So what we can now do now is probably we want to this is what we're trying to replicate, right? So for our colors look good. So I'll just come here and I'll just bring this title here, and I'll just come here and I'll select this one. I'll shift A on my keyboard, which is to add auto layout. Spacing between them is going to be 8. Then I can rename this particular component now here, or this auto layout, and just Control R or Command R, and I'll come here and I'll say input field, right? And let's enter. So I'll just also duplicate this guy, Control C, Control V, right? And we'll just come here and I want to have an icon with this group here. So this is what's going to be our helper text. So I'll just Remember, just go to assets, just pick an icon that we want here and just paste it inside of the auto layout here. Select this tool, shift A, switch it to horizontal auto layout, and take the icon to the text to the right, and the icon to the left. So spacing between guys is going to be 4. I think I'm good with this now. So I just want to like space these guys a little bit more. So I already have a layout grid, so I'll just like move it across and just drag like so. Right, but you notice that our text is at the center, so I want to keep it at the left hand side. Right, but at the same time, the reason why I have two icons here is because I'm trying to create an instance where I have you know where I have two icons. So in case I want to switch anyone in my design, so let's say I want to have an icon on the right hand side, I want to have an icon on the left hand side, right? I can easily just do that from components, right? So what I'll do is I'll just select this text and I'll come here to the properties here for resizing, and I'll come here and switch to fill container. So like this text will always be stretched. So when I hide this icon, the text will still look good, occupy the entire space, and to this guy. Alright, so now my icons are 20. Yes, I'm keeping them at 20. So I think I'm good with how this one looks like now. So I just probably want to just change this helper text to something like a little bit lighter, right? And yeah, so we have created this guy here now. So now the next thing is for me to, let me just call this helper text goes here. Okay, so I'll go to layers again, and I want to probably rename this to helper text and press enter, and then we have created our input field, right? So now we want to create a component for this guy, but you let me just walk you through like this set we created and how we could work our way around it, right? So if I select this, and if I come to my screen, you see that I can swap these instances here, right? So if you're using a new Figma UI, it's pretty much like the same thing too, right? So this is new UI. I'll come here, and from the top here, I can easily just swap the icons that are created in this file. And you see that there's something called icons, and because that is the page or the frame or the structure that is housing all of these, right? So if I go back, as you can see, I have all of these. All of these are, they are all icons, or they're all components inside this place, and this particular inside this frame. And this one you are seeing here, I call it trash set, right? You can see just trash set is here. If I click on trash sets, it just come on here, and I can just come here and begin to switch the values, right? So yeah, that's why I created a component set. These guys, I want to easily swap them later, and I want these guys to be in one single set, right? So that's it. So now we're going to like the important thing, and we want to create a component properly. So now I'll just come here. I think it's best that let me just duplicate this guy, right? Can we just like draw a frame around this whole thing, and just call this base components, right? Sorry, my base components. I'll select this one now, right? And I'll click on Command K or Control K. Sorry, Command Option and K, or Command Alt and K, and I've created a component. You can see everything now is purple, and this is one component. You can see here it's called input field. But now I want to create another instance, right? I want to have more than one of these guys inside the component, right? So switch back to the old UI first, and I could just come and click on plus, and this will become a component set now. And now Figma will call this variant 1 and call this default and call this one variant 2. Now, so I want to do a couple of things, right? So because of time, we're already 11 minutes in. I won't be going as in depth as I would want to, but I'll just explain to you the basics so you could practice like on your own, right? So I'm going to create I'm going to get three states for our design, right? So like the hover state, the active state, and things like that. So this is the default state, so we leave this as default. We want to make this one the let's just call it the focus state. So like when the user is like typing, how do you want that to look like, right? So now you could just come here and let's say I want my focus state to have a shadow, for instance, right? So I'll come here and I'll just really reduce this to like say 15% and remove the blur to, and maybe just come here like so, and let me just click this content so I can get to see and tweak the spread values. But I think I'll just increase the spread like this, right? And I'll just maybe, let's say I want to give this a different color. Say our primary color is something around the blue, so I'll just come on here and just select this color, right? And I'll just come here and let me say probably increase the opacity to like 20, right? And let's just say this is going to be our our focus state, right? Just assuming, right? So I think just, yeah, could reduce the spread maybe to 1.5. Yeah, I think this is fine. So let's just call this out. Assume this will be our focus state. So I can even I can start to even hide the stroke if I want to, right? But I think I'll just keep it. Let me just keep it, right? So alright, so let's call this focus. So we'll come here and we'll just come to this place and call this guy focused. Right, so add another variant by clicking on this one and clicking on plus, right? And I'll just come here and we want this one to be our, let's just say, error state for the meantime. So I'm going to make this guy red, so I'll just remove my colors there and just come on here and just look for a red, right? Just pick, let's say, pick this color for instance, right? And yeah, so that's like an error state, like when the user is typing on this input and there's an error somewhere, right? So yeah, so we'll come on here, select this variant, right, and come here and call it error. Alright, so let's just use these three states for now. So importantly, we want to do a couple of things here, right? So I want to talk to you about properties, right? So when you select your whole component set, right? If I go to this thing, this area here is where you have properties. So now if I click on plus, I get to see variant, text, boolean, instance swap, and nested instances. I'll talk about this one later, right? So when you see variant here, you what a variant means is, a variant is, like I said before, all of these elements here are variants, right? This is a text property that you can create a text property here in this component system for you to, let's say you want to be able to type directly inside of an instance without you having to stress yourself or having to like click inside. So let me just show you what I mean. If I go to assets now and I let me just click this and go to base components, can say I have input. I'll just say drag and paste it here, right? So now as you can see here, there's only one property one, which is the default, and the things I created are all here, right? So now if I create a text property now, let's say I create a text property for this guy, so I control click inside and I will go to under text here, you see this title here, I'll click on this and I'll come here and I'll write placeholder, right? And create property, and I created it for just the default state. So if I come here and I switch to default, you see that I have a text property that I can come and just type email address, for instance, to type directly inside. And that is what a text property does, right? For you to easily just manipulate text on the surface level of instances without you having to like control click and start typing by yourself and things like that, right? So that is what a text property does. Now so I'll just do the same thing for this guy. So I'll just come here, click, and I'll just go to this guy and just come here and select placeholder because I've created the property. So what I just did now is going to apply for the other two variants, right? Yeah. So now next, I'll just want to walk you through now real quick is how to basically just do the same thing, but now do it for buttons, right? And for icons, right, rather. And what happens here with icons is it's called boolean. So now let's say I want to hide this icon and I want to hide this icon, any of the icons. How do I end up doing that, right? So I'll just come to this icon here, click on, and I'll just come to layer. This is for layer and this is for visibility. If I want to hide or not, and this is a boolean value. So I will just come here to create boolean, and I'll come here and I'll say show left icon, right? And by default it's true. True means we're going to be seeing it by default. I like to keep it at true so I get to see every single thing that happens in my component set, right? So I would suggest to keep it at true, then just click on create property. Alright, so now if we come here, as you can see, show left icon means if we turn it off, it means we hide the left icon. So what a boolean value means is, or a boolean property means is, it's a yes or a no. So show icon, yes. So if it is on, if it is true by default, it means you're going to be seeing it. If I come here now and I just come here and, okay, let me say I go to the whole layer and I just come in now to edit this now and I'll say false. Are you seeing how like the icon for the default height, right? So that's what I mean by like, it being on true by default. I get to see things that are available in my components. Then in my component system, then I hide the ones I want to hide whenever I want to, right? So I'll just do something for all of these guys. So I'll just select this icon, go to layer and add this property here, show left icon, come here as well, do the same thing for this, for the arrow state, show left icon, right? And that's it. So I can do something for the title too. Alright, so I'll just come here, select this one to control shift and click, right? And I'll come to layer here and I'll come here. Remember, we need to create another property because this property is only for left icon. So I'll come here and I'll say show title. Alright, so if I come to my instance now, remember this is an instance, right? You get to see that I can turn this off and title hides by default, right? Show left icon and left icon hides, right? And that's it. So that's how that works. Alright, so next thing I'll do is for this icon here, let me just call it show right icon, right? So I come to layer, click on this guy and I'll create a property and I'll come here and I'll say show R icon, right? And that's true by default. So select this guy, do the same thing, show right icon, select this guy and also do the same thing, show right icon, and that's it. So we've created icon components, so we can hide all our icons. Let's say we don't want to show icons in our input, we want to show our title, right? And that's it. So yeah, so what's left is for you to now decide if you want to show this helper text. Now I want an instance or a situation where like if I get to show this helper text, sometimes I don't want the icon to be visible, I want the icon to be visible, right? So I'll just first of all come here and, because sometimes I also want to hide the helper text, so obviously just like I'll select this whole row, I'll come to layer for visibility here, for boolean property click on this and I'll create a new property and I'll say show helper, right? And I'll create property. So I can do something for these guys, come here and just add the property, show helper, come here and say show helper. So this means if I come here and I turn this off, it means my helper icon disappears, right? So my helper text at the bottom disappears. What if when I want to show helper, right, and I also want to like hide, let's say sometimes I don't want to like use this helper icon or something, right? So I'll just come here and I'll just click on this icon and I'll go to layer as well and I'll say create a new property for that instance and I'll come here and I'll say show let me call it helper icon. Okay, it doesn't have to be show, just name it whatever it is you want to name, so it's a lot easier for you to remember, right? So it means if I come here, right, and if I turn off helper icon, right, it means I won't be able to see the helper icon. And if I turn on helper icon and I turn off show helper, right, by default the helper icon is going to be it's no longer going to be visible because I just told Figma that I'm hiding this entire row, and even if this icon is nested inside of that row, if I try to hide the entire row, I don't need to see the icon anymore, right? So that's what that means. So if I turn off show helper. Obviously, I won't see helper icon anymore, right? So show helper, and that's it. So we've created like the basic structure in terms of things we want to hide and review. So by default, we obviously want to keep on seeing this text, right? So what if we want to have the right icon? We want to have the left icon only. So we close the right icon, and that's it. And of course, you can see just come in and just change the icon that is here to something else, right? But I'll show you how to do some surface level instance swapping later. But let me just walk you through properties. So now I've explained variant, text, boolean, right? But one thing I've not showed you now is a variant. So now remember that a variant is pretty much each of these elements that are inside here, right? Guys, time is off. Oh my god! So I think I'll just give myself let's say 15 more minutes, right? So just yeah, hopefully finish the 15 minutes. So anywho, so yeah. So now remember variants are each of these elements that are inside here that are nested, right? So now what I want to do now is I want to create more variants, and I want to create a variant for size. So let's say this input now, I want this input to be smaller. Let's say I want it to be smaller in terms of the height. So what am I going to do? Or let's say the styling generally. It means I have to create another variant for these guys. Right. So what I'll do now, I'll just enlarge this guy. So the system is like you can accommodate more content. And what I'll just do is I'll just come here and I'll just duplicate, right? And when I just alt and drag, Figma will give me an error message, right? Okay, oh, it didn't because I've already renamed all of these guys. So there's no conflicting property. But if I come here and I call this error, you see that there's a conflicting property now. And what this means is the way variants works, no variant can have the same name. And it doesn't matter, it's not case sensitive, but they just can't have the same name, right? So it means I have to rename this guy and call it something else, or give it an entirely new property or something, right? So obviously this is going to be error. Sorry, I think I need to. This is going to be error, right? Like this. This styling is for default. So let me just call this guy default too. But I'm still going to get the same error message, right? Because these and this guy are the same thing, and I cannot reference each of these guys outside of this component system. So I need to give a different name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another property, right? Another variant property called size. So I'll come here, I'll tell Figma, and I'll say give the name. I'll call the name. I'll call it size, right? And the first value is going to be medium, right? And I'll create a property. So now I'm going to give all of these guys a medium property. That's what they have by default, right? And I'm going to change this thing called property one. I'm going to change it to state, right? So state is default, medium, and error. And we have a property for another property for size that is medium, and we're going to give another one, call it small. So I'll come here, right, where this guy is, and I'll come here and I'll click add new property, right? And so I'm going to call this guy small, and you see that error message has now disappeared, right? Because we now have a proper structure here. But I want to obviously make this guy a lot different now. So I'll come here and just say 8 pixels and 8 pixels. So that's why this is a smaller variant, right? So I'll just come here and what I'll now do is, let's say I can just decide to just move this guy away a bit, right? Say 1 2. Before I even go far and start creating, I think I should just first off create instant swapping. So what I've not explained before now is instant swapping, right? And instant swapping is pretty much allowing you to swap instances. Remember what an instance is? Nested variant, right? So now I'll come here, and remember we have this set here. We have this we have components here for icons. So I'll come here and I'll click on this plus and I'll say expose nested instances. What this means is anywhere there's a nested instance, right? I'm telling Figma to expose it on the surface level, and the only nested component set is this trash set here. So if I come here and I click on trash sets, right? If I come here and let me say I turn on all of these. If I turn on this right icon, I get to see trash sets now. So let me just bring this to this frame here so it makes sense. So if I turn on let me just turn on left icon, right? So right icon now has this trash sets. So it means on the surface level I can come here and easily just swap between the icons I have created on the surface level. And you might consider that why does the right icon, why is that the only right icon I can do this for? That's because if you look at the components here, right, only the right icon has the trash sets, right? So if I just come here now and obviously I decide to switch this to, let's say, a different component, say something like this, right? It means in my instances, by default, I'm no longer going to be able to do that swapping unless I switch it to that particular set I just created, right? So the reason why I have these guys as one set is to show you how, like, if you have nested icons, let's say they have different properties. Let's say this one is a stroke, this one is duotone, and this one is a trash can, a solid icon, right? You can see just swap them in your design. All you need to do is just to create the instances here, right? And since we have an instance already in our sets, we can easily just call it when we want to change stuff. So let me just delete this one, right, and just bring this one here again, and let's say align to the center, option and H, and you can see that I can't change any icon yet here. I can't do the instance swapping yet because there's no icon for this particular variant that has the component sets, which is this guy here, right? So what I'll now do is I actually want to create surface level instances, right? So let's say I want to do it just for, let me start with the left icon, right? So I'll come here, you see where this variant swap here is called instance swap. So I can create a new instance on property, and I'll come here and I'll tell Figma I get this model, right? So I'll call this left icon, right? And this is the value basically means the default that is going to be here. And I can tell Figma that okay, I want you to check the sets in this preferred value here, right? So preferred value basically means okay, which areas should I prioritize when I want to swap? Obviously, but I can check other areas of the file too, right? So I want you to prioritize the section that has this guy here. So I'll just click on create property. And if I go here, as you can see left icon, I can just easily come here and I can swap my content. And if anything makes me to swap to this trash set, right? Obviously the trash set, I can easily just the trash set will have its own icon set. But the reason why I cannot change the content of the trash sets here is because they are basically just Figma is treating it as one until I create until I ask Figma to expose the content of the trash sets. That is this particular icon set here, right? So I get to see the other nested instances inside. So what that means is I have to go here and I'll go to the file, sorry, so the component set, and I would nested instances add nested instances trash sets. So that means I can expose these guys. So if I click on this add now, what this means is if I now go back to the instance, right, I can easily now come here and begin to swap the thing I just did. It might sound confusing, right? But this is the whole idea. You can easily just rewind this if you're confused. But the goal is when you have an icon, right? Right? You have one icon, you have an icon, you have a set, just like I have here. So if I want to switch properties now, I have to put all of these guys in one set, right? These ones are individual icons that don't have any other property. This is, like I said, stroke, duotone, and field. So if I want to easily switch this, right, I have to tell my component set to expose the nested instances that I'm using there. Do you understand? So that's how I'm able to, on the surface level, access all of this. And obviously, if I hide the left icon, I'll be able to see all of those properties anymore because the properties are dependent on the icon being visible on that component set, right? So yeah. So if I come in, I just switch this to this. Obviously, when I switch to that, I no longer have access to the nested icons for trash set, because the instance that is visible is just a normal, icon here that is not a set like this three, right? So yeah. So what I can do now, I can just come here, I can just begin to let me just switch all of this to, I don't think I need to switch. I'll just add all these properties, right? So this particular variant has I think I created a left icon here. So I'll just come here and say left icon, come here and say left icon. Something for this one, I can come here and also say left icon, right? So I could do the same thing for the right icon too. So click here, click on this one, and just come here and write create property and say R icon, right? And yeah, that's it. So come here and I just add this guy to right icon, come here, add this guy to right icon, come here and add this guy to right icon. Alright, so yeah, pretty much now I can see all of these things here. So if now what I want to do, you can see that this is not really arranged, right? So I can just arrange the layout of this. I want left icon to be close to the left icon instance swap, right? And I want the right icon boolean to be close to right icon instance swap. So I could just come to the parent component here like so. Go to yeah, okay, from here I can just directly reorder them, right? So remember, these are variants, these are the text properties, these are boolean for visibility, and these are instance swapping, and nested is always at the bottom here, so I can even move these ones if I wanted to, right? So I'll just come here and and I'll take the left icon instance swap to the left icon for boolean. I'll keep show title at the top of all of these guys, right? Yeah, I think I can keep it. Okay, I can keep it on that place of that, right? And I'll take yeah, take the right icon to go directly under the boolean for show right icon, right? Show helper icon. So yeah, then where's the helper? Yeah, okay, show helper and helper icon. I think this layout should be good. I'm not swapping. Yeah, I didn't create an instance swap for the helper. So what this means is if I want to switch the icon here, I have to control click and enter inside and just come here and change it by myself, right? That's if I just eventually want to switch the icon. But one thing I know is you have to be careful. You don't want to create a whole lot of instances, or sorry, a whole lot of properties, right? Because it will make your panel here very, very bulky. So if I hide all of this now by default, you see that a lot of things are no longer visible. So I can come here and say, okay, let me show my title. For a placeholder, I can say enter password, for instance. Just type directly inside and just press enter, right? Then I can, and that's it. So if I want to show the right icon, just come here. Obviously you can see that the instance just comes here for me to swap directly, which is good. So yeah, that's that. So I can just finish up the rest, right? Remember, we really just had the small, so I'll just come here, I'll duplicate like so, and obviously I'm going to get an error message because conflicting properties. So I just come here, I want to just remember what I wrote here. So 1.5 spread, 25%, right? So come here and add an effect for shadow, go to shadow, and obviously clip content, so I get to manipulate the spread properties. So 1.5 for spread. We don't want any blur, we don't want to tweak the Y position. We'll make this guy 15. Okay, I think we said 25, right? Then obviously paste the hex code here, and yeah, that is that. So it's like I was come and I can call this the state is not going to be the state is going to be focused now, and the size is going to be obviously small, right? So that's why we got that right. So I think I'll just duplicate this guy. So since they're like the same styling, so I don't need to end up taking styling. I'll just come in, obviously make this padding small, 8 pixels, 8 pixels, and I can just call this guy. I can call this guy small. right? So the status error, and obviously yes, I can call this guy small. I think we're good to go now. So yeah, that's how we created the components set, guys. So yeah, so if I just drag this guy across and see show helper, and I can, once I turn on show helper, I can decide if I want to keep the helper icon or not. So I can hide that one. I can say, okay, I say I don't want a title. I can just, like hide the title, show title. I think the title should even come first, right? So let me just take the title to the top here. Yeah, so all the instances that are nested, I get to view them when the icon is only visible. So if I turn off the right icon, obviously I cannot see the instance swap with the right icon. If I turn on the left icon, I can see the instance swap with the left icon. I cannot end up like trying to tweak based on the ones that are available. If I click on trash sets, I can now come here and manipulate the trash set value, right? If I want a field icon or not. Because I'm currently out of time, and I actually challenged myself to like put this in 25 minutes. I ended up doing 40. So I think that's pretty much it, and that's how like I designed how I design component systems, right? But just to give you a bonus, right? This file is going to be available definitely, and I also want to like walk you through what I did here as well. So this is another explanation or another practice or instance where like I ended up like using components here. So maybe I'll go to my assets here and under tax cards. See, this is under tax cards. You can see here. I'll just come and I'll just bring this instance here, and you just notice a couple of things, right? So I have three boolean properties that show stuff and hide stuff, right? And I have a status tag that can switch between a couple of things, which is a variant, right? So now this is auto layers. Obviously this is very responsive. So what did I do here? Quite simple. So this is a component set that I created. I brought an instance of this component into the main component here, as you can see, right? If I click on go to main component now, see to take me here, right? And this is the instance, and this is a simple tag that I also created as one single component, and I brought an instance into this design and I used it. So created all of these properties. They're quite simple, right? I wanted to show a title, so obviously the title is just going to be quite simple, right? It's just going to be under layer for visibility in right boolean. That's how you work with boolean. And obviously I wanted user to if I want user to easily just type the title here, right? I can just come and create a title property for them. So if I click on this, see under text here, there's a property for title, and I can detach it if I want to, but I don't want to. So that's just how that was easily created. And for these tags, the same thing. If I click on the tag here under layer, I can just come here and create a property for for the visibility here. So you can see I can come here and I'll just add so because that's like the property that I want to easily remember. So if I turn on Nomso, I have to see Nomso's tag. If I turn on Daniel, I have to see Daniel's tag, and that's it. So yeah, I hope this video is good and it helps you to understand the basics of components and instances and variants and properties, right? I hope you like get the hang of it, and as always you can easily just go back to reference. So these are the elements we use to design, right, our text field here. And I'll just drop this file in case you maybe want to like just check out a couple of things on your own and practice. So yeah, so this is what we call the parent or the master component, and these guys are the instances. As you can see, you can see it's a diamond with no field, just a stroke. And these guys are variants. You can see they have like field versions inside, and yeah, so you can create as many properties and as many booleans you want to create in your design, right? You just need to ask yourself, what am I trying to hide, what am I trying to review, what are the properties I want to keep by default. And once you have all of these things, you can create as many as you want, right? So for now we just created size and state. You might see people who do much more advanced things or much more advanced properties depending on the things they want to like project and review, right? So yeah, once you get the hang of it, you can create anything you want to in Figma. So yeah, so I hope this is a good video and it helps you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.